everybody. Today is a bit of a different video. I am going to be talking about grief and my experience with it. If you follow me over on Instagram, you will know that I put a couple of stories up to ask if anybody had any questions regarding the subject, as I know this time of year can be really difficult. If you're missing someone or if you've lost someone, either, you know, ages ago or if it's been recently. If you think this video will trigger you in any way or make you upset or make your situation worse, please click off now. I have been through it all. I know that sometimes you may force yourself to watch something because you think, I don't know, it will help or you should. It's not the case. You can always come back to this video later on and watch it when you're in a better frame of mind and a better state of mind. So please don't pressure yourself to watch this if you think it's going to make yourself worse. If you think you're okay to watch it, then please do. I hope it helps. If not, please don't force yourself. I will be talking about my story first, just explaining to you all what happened, and then I'll be going to the questions that you guys have asked me. So yeah, let's get into what happened. I've written it all on my phone because I know I'm going to get like emotional and forget what I'm saying. So on holiday in the summer of 2010, that sounds so weird, in the summer of 2010, my mum noticed a rash on her breast. When she got home from this holiday, she went to the doctors, but they kept on saying it was just like a rash or some kind of skin condition, and they kept prescribing her creams and antibiotics, I think. And they just didn't really take it very seriously. She kept going back because she knew something was wrong, but they didn't really listen to her. And so in October that same year, she went to, I think she went to get a scan of some kind, and they diagnosed her with breast cancer. At this time I was in year 8 at school. My sister was doing her GCSEs. So mum and dad sat us down at the dinner table that day that they found out, but they only told us that she had breast cancer. What they didn't tell us was that it was stage 2, spread to her bones as well. Bone cancer being incurable, but they didn't tell us this at this point because I was still very young and still settling into high school, and my sister was doing her GCSEs, and they thought this isn't going to change anything, so let's just not tell them, which I completely respect. So that was in year 8. The next 4.5 years, I think, mum went through scan after scan. She went through chemo. So by Easter 2014, my mum's cancer has spread to her liver and her brain. She went jaundice, which means she goes yellow. Dad and I didn't really notice because it was over time, but when she went to see a consultant, they were like, you look really yellow, we need to kind of get this sorted out, or check this out. And that's when they found that she had cancer in her liver and her brain. So that was Easter 2014, and then by June 2014 mum was really not in a good space, and she was bedbound, and in June 2014 she passed away at the age of 51. She was able to plan her own funeral, which was really good. She wanted it to be a celebration, and it was. We all had little teacups, everyone wore bright colours, there was no black, and it was really lovely. Obviously difficult, but it was nice that mum was able to have that impact and have that say in what she wanted it to be like. So from then onwards I refused to talk about it for years. Whenever mum was mentioned, I would just shut down, or pretend everything was fine and then go and let it all out in private. So for example, if dad said something about mum, I would be like, oh yeah, and then I'd go to my room and just sob. I just couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. So I would just put a brave face on and cry in public. This meant I developed severe anxiety. I already had anxiety before mum passed due to my emetophobia. I also had OCD and thought if I didn't do something a certain amount of times, the main thing maybe being like listen to a song twice instead of once. I don't know. Mum would pass away because of me. It was a horrible, horrible thing to live through. Like, I thought everything I did that was bad, that I saw was bad, such as not doing anything an even amount of times, mum would die because of me. I remember I went to a friend's house party one night and I drank, and I didn't drink very much, but the next day I found out some bad news about mum and I just broke down because I was like, well, it's all my fault. Obviously I've gone and drunk, I'm underage, and now it's all my fault. Mum, of course, put me straight and said, no, it's not your fault. But I had severe anxiety and severe OCD. So I had this anxiety throughout sixth form and university. I would run away and hide whenever I could, and this is especially easy to do at university because if you're in dorms, you can just go to your dorm, lock the door, and just cry. You don't have to tell anybody anything. It was not healthy. I was in such a bad space. But in school, when I didn't have anywhere to go, such as in a classroom, the emotions would result in a panic attack, and there were multiple times in sixth form where I had to be sent home because I couldn't cope. So that was like the extent to the grief that got to me because I just didn't talk about it. Uni-wise, I went to the Uni of York to study psychology in 2016. Because my anxiety was so bad, I had to drop out in 2017. Appealed to restart the year, and I restarted in September 2017. But because I hadn't talked about mum, I hadn't gone through any of the grieving stages, I hadn't processed any of it, my anxiety was still really bad. And so in January 2018, I dropped out of uni for good. I came home, and I thought, I don't know what to do now. I've been through CBT 3 times. What else can I do? My dad had been talking to me about grief counselling for so long, but I was like, no, I can't do that, can't do that. But I finally gave in, and from about March 2018 to about August, October time 2018, I had counselling via the hospice that looked after my mum. They only usually do counselling for like the year after or something, but because when I heard about my situation they made an exception, so I was able to have counselling through them. They were absolutely incredible. I think just to have someone who knows what you're talking about when somebody is passed, and made me feel so safe that I could just say whatever. And so through that I was able to process all the stuff that happened with mum, all the guilt I felt because I had to do my GCSEs at the time that she was passing away, and I felt so guilty that I was revising and not spending time with her in her last few days. Just all the grief and sadness that I'd been bottling up for years, it all just came out in 2018. And this was when I was diagnosed with my chronic illnesses as well, so fibromyalgia and ME/chronic fatigue syndrome, whichever you want to call it. So because of like that trauma coming out, my body basically didn't know how to process it, and it messed up the hormones in my brain, which has caused fibromyalgia. If you want me to do another video on that, I can, but that's why I got chronic illnesses. And then 2019, I was working on myself. I started my blog in 2018, started my Instagram, and I was just doing that. And then in January 2019, I applied to go to uni again. I felt semi-ready. I knew I had until September to sort myself out properly. So I did, and then I went to uni in September 2019, and yeah, that was last year. Now we're here. So that's my story, that's kind of what I've been through, and now I'll answer your questions because I think that will help more directly maybe. Any tips on how to cope with living with someone with cancer is quite overwhelming to witness. I get that completely. I felt like I don't want to get upset. Mum and Dad weren't sleeping in the same bed at this point because Dad snores and Mum needed her rest, all the rest she could get because of her cancer. So she was in the spare room, which is next to my room, and I just felt like that was the cancer room. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like that room had been tarnished by all the horrible memories of Mum being ill or getting bad news in that room or whatever. It's difficult living with someone with cancer because you want to be there for them, but you know you can't do anything. I remember when I was still at school, we had so many bottles of sanitizer around the house because we kept on having to get clean, so Mum didn't get a cold when she had like really low immunity when she was on her chemo. And I remember one time, I always got ill as a kid from like colds or whatever, and I accidentally gave her a cold from school, and she was in hospital for like 2 weeks because of that, and the guilt I felt was horrendous. So kind of living in a sterile household, seeing your loved one not as you want to see them, such as with a bald head and weak, it's horrible, but you have to remember that they are still them. They still see you thriving, they want you to be happy. So don't talk to them any differently. That was one thing Mum really hated, was how people would pussyfoot around her and treat her differently. She just wanted to be treated normally, make her feel normal. And that's kind of what we did as a family. We would still take the piss out of her. We would still have that family dynamic. And just not treat her any differently. It can be really difficult, but I think you have to tell them that you're finding it difficult in a very sensitive way, of course. So when Mum first had a bald head, I was shocked, and I told her that, and she was like, I know, and she just gave me a hug, and knowing that that was out in the open made me feel better. Also talk to other people in your household, and talk to people, friends, whoever outside of the household, somebody who is detached from the situation so that they don't really know what's going on, but you can just kind of tell them and they can give an outsider's opinion, which can actually help. Sometimes you're so in it you can't see the best way to deal with it, so maybe talk to someone outside of it can help. But yeah, I get that it's really, really overwhelming, but just remember they are still them, no matter how they look, no matter how they're acting because of chemo or whatever treatment. They are still them, and they want to talk to you and they want to love you, and just try and keep that relationship for as long as you can. How do you cope on days when you can't get them off your mind? My brain feels super foggy and it's hard to concentrate. For ages and ages, I would put so much pressure on myself on these days. I'd be like, well, you're stupid because it happened like 3 years ago. Or whatever, but because I didn't process it for so long, I was actually way further behind in the grieving process. So Mum died about 6 years ago now, but because I didn't grieve for like 4 years, I'm actually only 2 years into the grieving process, if that makes sense. And through my counselling I realised that grieving takes a different amount of time for everyone, and if you're not coping on a day, then that's completely fine. It's difficult if you have a job or you're at uni or something, because you feel like you have to concentrate. In that situation, I would say talk to loved ones, talk to family, friends, tell them what's going through your mind. They can maybe give you some advice. Say like, oh, I don't know, go easy on yourself in your lecture today, or maybe leave your coursework for tomorrow, or if you're in a job, just send you little messages of encouragement throughout the day to help you feel a bit better. But I get that makes your brain feel foggy and you feel like you can't think of anything else. I think the main thing is to not put pressure on yourself. If you put pressure on yourself to be completely normal, you're just going to end up feeling worse. So don't put pressure on yourself, and just feel the feelings you need to feel. If you need to come home from work and have a cry, then that's okay. Even if it happened like 20 years ago, it's still completely normal. So try and get through what you need to get through. Remember, they're looking down on you, and they're so proud of what you're doing. And then if you need to feel stuff in the evening or when you have time, do that. But then also don't put pressure on yourself to feel stuff. So sometimes when I have a bad day, I'm like, why aren't I crying? But it's fine to feel whatever. You can just feel numb, you can feel sad, you can even feel happy that they're not in pain, or that you even knew them, or that you had the chance to have that relationship with them. So don't put pressure on yourself, because I've done that so many times. And feel what you need to feel, and let those around you know if you can, because they will help you and they'll want to help you. How do you cope with milestones such as birthdays and the death date? 6 years on, I still don't really know how to deal with it. I just take it as it comes. I try not to put any I don't know, like, I guess pressure on myself to feel a certain way on the day. I used to get upset 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, so I was really distraught for about a month around the time that it was their birthday, or that it was their death date, or for me Mother's Day as well. I think I got myself so wound up, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel on this day, it's going to be horrible. And then afterwards, because I think I forced myself just to feel as happy as I could be on that day, because that's what I knew Mum wanted me to feel. I would then spend the next 2 weeks letting all the emotions out. It was a whole thing and it wasn't very good. So what I've learned is to don't pressure yourself. Yes, it's gonna be difficult, it's always gonna be sad. It gets better, it really does. Time is the best healer. I used to be so distraught on my birthday, because Mum always made birthdays amazing in this house. She was incredible, and I always felt such a big hole on my birthday because she wasn't here. But actually this year I let myself feel what I needed to feel, and I actually had the best birthday I've had since she passed away. I focused on, sorry if you heard that child screaming outside. I focused on my family around me, my boyfriend, my friends, and the fact that I was so lucky to even have her as a mother, even if it was just for a short amount of time, because some people don't have that relationship. Same with fathers, same with sisters, same with everything. It can be really hard to feel grateful after they've passed away. I'm a Christian, and I was so angry at God for so long. I'm a Christian before she passed away, about a month or two, and then I threw myself into my faith. I was like, everything's going to be fine, and then all the anxiety and everything else came, and I got so angry with God. I was like, why has this happened? This is not fair. And it's not fair. And that some days you're going to feel really, really angry, and that's okay. But with milestones, you just kind of have to take it as it comes and be kind to yourself. Don't make yourself feel any worse than you need to. Don't be like, why aren't I crying? Or don't be like, why am I happy? Don't question what you're feeling and just feel it, and know that they're watching down on you. But they are difficult, but they do get better. I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. But that's all I can say. Just be kind to yourself. Let others around you know that it's coming up, and that you might be a little bit tetchy or you might be a bit sad, and feel what you need to feel. Following on from that, how do you cope with grief around Christmas? The same kind of thing, really. It is really difficult seeing Christmas adverts with people and their mums, seeing people out, not this year obviously, but usually seeing people out with their mums Christmas shopping. All the little things that you didn't really think about when they were here can be really difficult. But the same kind of thing applies. Feel what you need to feel. Don't put any pressure on yourself. Don't put pressure on yourself to feel festive if you're not feeling it. It's completely fine. For so many years I would put pressure on myself to feel festive. I'm like, well, this is what mum would want and this is what my family wants, so I'm going to be the happiest person I can be on this Christmas day, and I would end up just a mess for like a week after, because you can't put all those emotions to the side for ages and then expect them not to come out. So Christmas, just be sad when you need to be sad. It's completely okay to feel sad at Christmas time. You don't need to feel jolly all the time. Pick up a phone to a loved one, talk to loved ones if you can. I know it can be so difficult to say what you're feeling, and you can feel a bit silly if it was like 20 years ago, but honestly it's not. Whenever you feel grief, for however long afterwards, is completely normal and okay and understandable. If they were a big part of your life, even if they were a small part of your life, you're gonna feel sad that they're not here anymore. I lost a friend this year, and I didn't really know him at school, but I still think about him at Christmas time. I think of his family, and even though he wasn't a big part of my life at all, I still feel sad, and that's okay. Like, no matter what your relationship was, it's completely okay to feel whatever you need to feel. Please be kind to yourself, especially in this situation we're in at the moment. It's completely understandable if you're feeling sad or anxious or depressed or whatever. All I can say is try and reach out to at least one person and say what you're feeling, and they'll just prove to you that you're not alone in this. Christmas will pass and we'll be in a new year, and I can feel sad in the new year as well. I'm like, oh, it's another year without mum, but it's also another year for you to grow and to make them proud. So please just be kind to yourself this Christmas time. Don't put any pressure on yourself to feel anything in particular. Cry if you need to cry, even on Christmas Day. If you need to cry, cry. And just get all the cuddles from the people you live with, or virtual hugs from your friends if you're living by yourself. Yeah. Just my big message is just be kind to yourself, don't put pressure on yourself. And the last one, what can other people do to support someone who's grieving? I guess it depends what that person feels on the day they come to you, or the day that they express their feeling sad. If they're feeling angry, be like, yeah, it's really unfair. And then try and take their mind off it in some way maybe. If they're feeling sad, get them bundled up, give them some chocolate, and just hug them and say it's okay, you're not alone. I think encourage them that whoever it is that's passed will be proud of them, because no doubt they probably will be. Encourage them that it's completely okay to feel that the way that they're feeling. Try and, if they're feeling up to it, try and remember them of the good times when the person who's passed was here. Maybe suggest to go through some photos with them to maybe stir up some happy memories. You have to be very gentle with that one though, because sometimes when you look at photos it can make yourself feel worse. Just be sensitive, really. Don't expect them to do anything. Like, heavy duty, and just let them know that you're completely there for them. And I think that's what people appreciate the most. I've lost some friends through this grieving process, only a couple, but they just didn't seem to care, or they didn't reach out to me, and it was difficult. But it makes me appreciate those friends who were there for me so much more. So just be there for them, text them, video call them, send them a little letter in the post, a little care package, let them know you're thinking of them, and just be gentle with them. That's all that we expect. Not expect, that's all we want. It's just someone there that we know we can trust and rely on. We don't want them to do anything else than that, because that's enough in itself. So that's the end of the video. I hope this was helpful in some way. I know it's a really, really sensitive topic to talk about.